Have you ever realized that the quietest move you make can be the loudest statement in someone else's life? Silence isn't empty, it's powerful. You want to know what happens when you go completely quiet on a narcissist? Chaos, complete and total chaos, but not for you, for them, because silence, that's their biggest fear. It's the one thing they can't twist, shape, or have control over. They can handle your anger, they can manage your sadness, but they can't deal with your calm. The moment you stop explaining, defending, or reacting, they start to lose it. They'll text, they'll call, they'll watch your social media. And when none of that works, they'll flip the story. Suddenly, you're the problem. They'll tell everyone you're cold, crazy, or ungrateful. But here's what's real. Your silence reveals their chaos. Every lie, every trick, every act starts falling apart. And listen, it's not easy because you'll feel that pull, that urge to reply, to prove your side, to be understood. Don't. Every time you respond, you add fuel to the fire you're trying to put out. So let them talk. Let them perform. While they're busy replacing you, you're rebuilding yourself. Silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It shows you finally learned the lesson. And the best part, they'll never understand how you did it because they'll never understand peace. Silence is strength, not weakness. When you finally stop explaining, defending, or trying to make someone understand who was never really listening, that quiet becomes your loudest reply. For someone who's used to controlling the story, your silence feels like losing air. It's a shift they never expected. They live off chaos, off your reactions, off the energy you give each time you respond. And when that energy is gone, their sense of control starts to crack. The reason silence holds so much power is because it changes everything. It takes the attention off them and brings it back to you. It's not revenge. It's not punishment. It's reclaiming your peace. Because the truth is, you can't win an argument with someone who's committed to misunderstanding you. You can't heal in the same place that keeps hurting you. Silence becomes your line in the sand, the unseen boundary that says, you don't have access to my energy anymore. At first, they'll take your silence as an insult. They'll call you distant, heartless, or dramatic. They'll do anything to get a reaction because that reaction confirms they still matter. But what they can't see is that your silence isn't about them anymore. It's about choosing yourself. You're no longer begging to be valued. You're no longer explaining why you deserve respect, honesty, or kindness. You've stopped performing for someone who only claps when it benefits them. Silence brings reflection, not just for them, but for you. It gives you space to think clearly, without manipulation, without guilt, without the gaslighting that kept you trapped in their cycle. In quiet, you start seeing the pattern. You realize how much of your peace you traded for their approval. You notice how many times you said sorry just to keep the connection. How many times you settled for less because you feared being alone. In silence, you begin to understand that solitude isn't loneliness, it's healing. And for the narcissist, that quiet is terrifying because it tells them something words never could, that they lost control. They can't predict you anymore. They can't provoke you. They can't drag you back into the emotional game. Your calm becomes a mirror, showing them their emptiness. They'll try harder, get louder, act softer, or play the victim. But nothing they do feels the same because you've stepped away from the role they wrote for you. Each time you stay quiet, your boundaries get stronger. You remind yourself that you don't need to reply to every insult, defend against every lie, or fix every misunderstanding. You teach yourself that peace doesn't come from winning the fight. It comes from walking away from one that doesn't deserve your time. Silence doesn't mean you've given up. It means you've grown up. It shows you've learned that your energy is precious and not everyone deserves it. The moment you go silent, the panic begins. For someone who feeds on attention, your quiet feels like rejection wrapped in confusion. They're used to setting the pace, push a bit, pull a bit, provoke, guilt, flatter, repeat. But suddenly, nothing works. The messages stay unanswered. The calls go to voicemail. The bait gets ignored. That calm makes them nervous because it means their grip is slipping. They can't read your thoughts, and that uncertainty drives them crazy. In this panic stage, their mind spins fast. They replay every moment, not out of remorse, but to find where they lost control. They start testing you. A friendly message, a casual, "Hey, how have you been?" Something harmless at first. When that fails, they turn it up. Maybe anger, maybe tears, maybe blame. They'll swing between sweet and cruel, whichever they think might get a reaction. Their only goal is to make you break your silence. Because if you reply even once, they know they still have a way in. This isn't about missing you. It's about missing control. They panic because they can't reach the emotional supply that once kept them inflated. Your silence reminds them that they're not as powerful as they thought. They dig into old habits, guilt trips, fake apologies, sentimental memories, or sudden self-awareness. They'll say, "I've been thinking a lot about us," or "I realize what I did was wrong." But the real goal is to get you talking again. Because silence means you've stopped feeding their ego, and that's unbearable. As their panic grows, so does their instability. One day they're kind, the next they're angry. They'll blame you or cause small dramas just to force interaction. They might show up where you are or use mutual friends to send messages. It's not love driving these actions. It's fear. Fear of being irrelevant. Fear of losing control. Fear of not being seen. For someone who lives off validation, being ignored feels like suffocation. Inside that panic, they start rewriting the story. They convince themselves you're the problem, that you're cold, selfish, or unstable. They need to believe that because accepting the truth that you see through them is too painful. Their identity depends on pretending they're superior, and your silence breaks that illusion. It tells them they've lost access to your emotions, and that realization hits hard. The panic phase is when they start noticing they can't predict your next step. You're no longer reacting, and that loss of control exposes their insecurity. Sometimes they'll mirror your silence, pretending not to care. But in reality, they're obsessed with understanding why you're suddenly unreachable. Silence changes the balance of power, and they feel it deeply. Their calm act hides the storm inside them. When silence doesn't fade and panic turns into desperation, they move into what's called the Hoovering Stage. Just like a vacuum trying to pull you back, they'll use every trick that once worked. Suddenly, they remember everything you ever wanted to hear. They become gentle, attentive, even emotional. The same person who once dismissed your feelings now appears full of empathy. They'll say they've changed, that they finally understand, that they can't imagine life without you. Every word, every gesture, every "I'm sorry" is carefully planned to sound real enough to make you question yourself. Hoovering isn't about love, it's about control. They miss having you in their orbit, knowing they could reach you anytime. So, they perform. They might send long, heartfelt messages, old photos, or memories from better times. They use nostalgia like a tool because they know it stirs emotion. They'll say, "No one gets me like you," or "I can't stop thinking about you," hoping it opens a door you closed. When words don't work, they change the strategy. Maybe they appear in places they know you'll be. Maybe they post things online aimed at you. Sometimes they fake a crisis, an illness, a loss, a sudden emotional breakdown, anything that triggers your empathy. They know you care, and they depend on that compassion. They'll say they just need one chance to explain, to make things right, to show they're different now. But what they really crave isn't your forgiveness, it's your response. The moment you engage, they feel the control return. Their timing is exact. They know when to reach out, usually when you're healing, moving on, or finding peace again. They can sense that emotional distance, and that's when they reappear. The hoovering phase is strategic. It's not random affection. It's a move disguised as vulnerability. They'll mirror your emotions, your words, your hopes, anything to rebuild the bond. They may even act like the person you always wanted them to be. But it never lasts. Once they feel secure again, the old patterns come back. The same manipulation, the same disregard, the same exhausting cycle. During hoovering, they become experts at pretending. They read your reactions like a script. If you hesitate, they push harder. If you resist, they change their tone. Maybe they get mad, maybe they use guilt. They'll say you owe them closure, that you're cruel for walking away, that you're exaggerating, anything to make you reply. Every message, every tear, every promise is crafted to blur the memory of why you left in the first place. The hoovering phase isn't about reconnecting, it's about survival. They need to prove they can still pull you back into their world whenever they want. When hoovering doesn't work and your silence stays firm, the narcissist shifts into the smear campaign. This is the stage where they rewrite the whole story to save their ego. They can't stand being seen as the one who was left. So they become the victim, the narrator, and the hero all at once. In their retelling, you were unstable, ungrateful, controlling, or unkind. They begin spreading half-truths and twisted versions of what really happened, feeding lies to anyone willing to listen. Their mission isn't only to hurt you, it's to damage your reputation before you even know what's happening. The smear campaign is their way of regaining control of the story they've lost. They live off image, attention, and how others view them. Once you go silent and they can no longer manipulate you directly, they turn to influencing those around you. They start planting seeds of doubt, pretending to be confused, heartbroken, or unfairly treated. "I don't know what happened," they'll say. "I did everything I could." They make it sound like they were fighting to save the relationship while you simply gave up. It's all deliberate. They want others to doubt you before you even get to share your truth. They use charm where it's effective and pity where it isn't. With mutual friends, they'll play the misunderstood one. With strangers, they'll paint you as toxic. They'll make small, harmless-sounding comments that are actually meant to linger. "I just hope they get the help they need," or "I did everything for them." They frame themselves as the selfless giver who was mistreated. It's all about shaping how people see them because reputation means everything. They can't stand the thought of anyone seeing the truth, so they cover it with layers of lies before it can come out. The cruelest thing about the smear campaign is how believable they can appear. Narcissists are skilled performers. They know exactly how to act emotional when it serves them. They cry on cue, show just enough vulnerability to seem sincere, and tell stories so passionately that even people close to you begin to doubt you. You might notice friends pulling away, relatives acting distant, co-workers believing the rumors. That isolation is intentional. They want you to feel alone, helpless, and tempted to speak out, because the moment you react, they point and say, "See, look how crazy they are." This stage shows just how much they fear being exposed. The smear campaign is damage control for their image. They're not grieving the loss of you. They're fighting to keep their sense of dominance. By painting you as the problem, they protect their false image from accountability. They can't handle being the reason things ended, so they rewrite the past until even they believe their own version. Every rumor, every whisper, every fake confession becomes a shield against the truth they refuse to accept. Once the smear campaign loses its effect and can't pull you back, the narcissist moves to what feels like the final act, the replacement illusion. This is when they try to show the world, and mostly themselves, that they've moved on and upgraded. Suddenly, they appear online with someone new, smiling, posting captions about real love, about finally being happy or at peace. It happens fast, it's loud, and it's perfectly timed. They want you to notice, they want everyone to notice. The illusion of replacement isn't love, it's validation. It's a performance meant to convince the audience that they're thriving while they're really trying to fill the void your silence left. The new person becomes a prop in their play, a reflection of what they need to feel important again. They'll shower them with affection, gifts, and attention, all the things you once hoped for. They'll post pictures, quote romantic sayings, and make it look effortless. But behind that curated happiness is deep insecurity. They're not celebrating a real bond. They're advertising one. It's their way of proving they've won. In truth, they're terrified that you've stopped caring. The new relationship becomes a weapon, not a connection. They use it to stir jealousy, confusion, or regret in you because your silence has made them invisible. This illusion is powerful because it's carefully planned. They study what used to hurt you and reuse it now to get a response. If you once wished for public appreciation, they'll flaunt their new partner everywhere. If you longed for honest communication, they'll post long emotional notes about love and healing. It's not genuine, it's image control. They mimic the version of love they know you wanted just to suggest that you were the problem all along. Every photo, every caption, every display screams one message. See, I can be good, just not with you. But the truth is, the replacement illusion rarely lasts. The pattern repeats because the core never changes. The charm, the idealization, the attention, it all fades once the new person stops feeding their ego the way you did. At first, it's intense. They move fast, skipping emotional steps, creating a bond that looks deep but is actually hollow. The new partner usually has no clue they're stepping into a well-rehearsed cycle. They think they've met someone amazing, but they've simply taken over a role that was written long before they arrived. For the narcissist, this illusion is a short escape from the emptiness they avoid facing. The new relationship distracts them from the truth. They haven't changed, healed, or grown. They're not replacing you. They're replaying the same script, hoping for a different ending but repeating the same mistakes. The replacement illusion isn't about love or joy. It's about proving they still have influence. It's self-deception built on fear of being forgotten. The real breakthrough happens when you stop looking for validation from them and start reclaiming your own strength. It doesn't happen dramatically. It starts quietly, with small mental shifts. You stop replaying every argument, stop doubting your worth, and stop trying to guess their next move. For so long, your energy was tied to their chaos. Every message, every lie, every game. When you finally step away and refuse to join the cycle, something amazing happens. You begin to notice yourself again. You remember your needs, your voice, your goals. This stage is no longer about them, it's about you. You realize your life doesn't need their approval, their attention, or their permission to have meaning. You start setting boundaries without guilt, standing by them without fear, and protecting your peace without apology. Every time they try to pull you back, through hoovering rumors or flashy displays, you respond with calm detachment. You've stopped reacting because you understand the pattern and refuse to play. That detachment is your breakthrough. The moment their methods lose power because you've stopped giving them energy. With that shift, clarity comes. You start seeing things you once ignored. The manipulation disguised as concern, the control masked as care. You understand that the chaos was never your fault, that their instability wasn't yours to fix, and that the love you fought for was only an illusion. The breakthrough brings self-respect. You begin treating yourself as someone who deserves honesty and consistency, not as someone to be bent or dismissed. You realize silence, patience, and focus were never signs of weakness. They were your path to strength and healing. It also brings freedom. You no longer live in fear of their reactions. You stop checking their posts, stop wondering what they'll do next, stop shaping your actions to keep peace with someone who thrives on conflict. The emotional chain that once tied you to their moods finally breaks. You breathe easier, think clearer, and make choices based on your own peace instead of their approval. Each day of quiet and self-focus reminds you that you don't need them to feel whole. This breakthrough changes everything because your sense of power turns inward. You're no longer dependent on their validation. You're building confidence from within. You begin reconnecting with people who bring balance and kindness. You rediscover what feels real and meaningful. You start creating a life based on your own values, not on damage control. Every decision made with your well-being in mind strengthens your sense of self. You start living freely, without the constant weight of trying to fix what was never yours to fix. Your energy, once consumed by their drama, shifts back toward your dreams, your healing, and your joy. You stop fearing loss because you understand that what's toxic can't define your story. You realize that real power doesn't come from making someone notice you. It comes from noticing yourself, protecting your peace, and walking confidently in your own direction. In the end, the journey through manipulation, deception, and emotional games is not about the other person. It's about reclaiming yourself. True strength comes from recognizing patterns, understanding your worth, and choosing peace over chaos. Every step you take towards silence, self-focus, and clarity strengthens your confidence and independence. You don't need anyone else's approval to validate your life. Healing isn't about forgetting or pretending nothing happened. It's about learning, growing, and creating boundaries that protect your well-being. When you prioritize your own values, voice, and peace, you break free from cycles that once held you captive. The most powerful change is internal. It's in choosing your growth over conflict, your calm over reaction, and your future over the past. By noticing your own worth and living authentically, you create a life that is fulfilling, resilient, and free. Your freedom, your clarity, and your strength are proof that the greatest power comes from within.